Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Crown Rules with our host Quentin Ford and myself, Julia Dozier. I am the author of 2 books focused on the health and well-being of relationships within the Black community. My first published book, Crown Rules, One Woman's Journey to the Throne, is an explorative journey into the heart, mind, and soul of a woman. It is designed for the rebuilding of a woman's self-identity, her purpose, and her vision for her future. The book contains journaling exercises for her to document her transformation on her journey to the throne. The second edition will be available in 2021. My current book release, Crown Rules 2, How Black Men Love, is purposed to provide healing and restoration to the relationships we conduct within our race by establishing first and foremost that Black men do love. The book contains interviews held with 10 Black men at different ages and stages of their lives. They share the meaning, perspective, and their experience of love in their own words. Each week, Quentin and I look forward to discussing the book and one of the 13 questions asked of each man. And we invite you, our audience, to share your questions, your thoughts, your experience, and your wisdom as we journey through Black love. So sit back, relax, and let's talk Crown Rules. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
A good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, as well as our rest of our streaming channels. And it's Thursday night. Great night. Great night. Crown Rules 2, How Black Men Love.
Yes.
And we're on question 10. No, question 9, right?
Question 9, yes.
Question 9. I tell you, these weeks, they go by so quickly, but it's great to have you, Julia, again this week. Glad to see you.
Thank you so much, Quentin. It's great to be back. It's always wonderful to spend time with you on a Thursday evening. I appreciate it. How you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. Everything's good. You know, we were behind the scenes getting our little laugh on. You know, it's a pleasure. Julia, before we get started,
Yes.
And forgive me for being a little rude.
Yes.
I don't know if I ever asked you to explain to my audience a little bit about your background and your schooling. I don't know if you ever did that even on either show. I think it was more you just said that you're a writer and wrote 2 books, but explain to the audience who you are, Brooklyn girl.
Bronx.
What? Oh, Bronx, my bad. Wrong borough. Yeah. Explain to the audience who you are, Julia, if you don't mind.
Okay. I actually have an amazing story, like most people do. And I usually cut off the first part. But thank you for asking. So I was born and raised in the Bronx, not too far from Yankee Stadium and what used to be the Fever, where Curtis Blow used to hang out. And I dropped out of school in the 9th grade. I was bored to death, and I also wanted to make some money to try to support myself. So I dropped out of school. And then at the age of 18, it became evident that I needed to continue my education. So I got my GED and went to Virginia State University for 1 semester.
Okay.
For 1 semester. Because education requires discipline, and I wasn't prepared at that time. So I returned back to New York and took various jobs on, and I met a young woman who really inspired me towards education. And I went back to college at the age of 27. I went to Borough Manhattan Community College and majored in human services. I graduated valedictorian, which was amazing. And then I went on to Hunter College in New York, where I majored in psychology. And then thereafter, I went to Nyack College where I achieved my master's in organizational leadership. So I've been studying psychology for over 20 years.
Well, you have a friend in the chat that you don't tell your full story enough, I guess,
Hi, Nicole. Good evening.
and then drop back in. It was valedictorian.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So if you don't mind me asking,
Yes.
what made you leave school? It just was boring, or
I had a I had a lot going on in my life
hmm
at that point in time. And I know that I was very intelligent, but I'm the type of person that requires engagement. And I think during that time, I was going to a high school in the Bronx. And that environment was totally different than my junior high school environment, where my teachers and my guidance counselors were, greetings, Lacey, where my teachers and my guidance counselors were very engaged and wanted to ensure my success. I kind of got lost in the sauce in high school. Um,
okay,
and I didn't have a connection. And in the absence of having a connection, and then also, needing to work, it just made sense to go.
okay. So as we proceed,
Yes,
we are on question number 9
yes,
to this beautiful book.
yes.
How do you know when you are in love? Hmm.
Yes. And what does it feel like to you?
Very interesting question that you asked these gentlemen. Well, and I always tell you that you perfectly placed these 13 questions at spots where I think it was like a gradual thing, so to
Yes,
say. So
progression.
yeah, it was the progression is definitely there.
What did you like about this question?
Um,
What did you think about this question, Quentin?
I thought the answers was very interesting. I started out with the first and foremost one. He felt like he got punched by Mike Tyson, and I'm saying to myself, I don't know how he know about getting punched like Mike Tyson, Phil, but if it was Tyson of when we were younger, woo,
That's a blow.
yeah, yeah. So that's a blow. That's a blow. Um, so I thought the answers were very euphoric, so to say. What a couple people said they was cloud. Um, feels like when you're not together, like a part of you is missing. Feeling of happiness, feel it in my heart, feel it in my facial expressions. Magical, beautiful, intoxicating. The glow,
The glow. The
yeah, the
glow.
glow. And I did have one thing I wanted to read, and
Yes.
I thought was very interesting. Was Lee.
Yes.
Lee said, you asked him, how do you know when you're in love? What does it feel like to you? He said, I don't know. The only woman I've ever been in love with has been a number two pencil and a blank sheet of paper.
Yes. That's our Lee is our artist. He was our artist. Um, and I appreciate that honesty. He did say, he didn't, if he had fallen in love, he said that he
Mm,
would still be in that place. He said that he, had romantic love with women, but the only enduring love that he had was his art. And he said that that was his gift. And he said some people fall in love or love their gift.
yeah, I thought that was interesting that he said that, and that's usually the case. That he's probably a very successful artist because he realized that's what he loves and that's what he loves to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was always taught when it comes to working, if you don't love your job, you won't put a 100% effort in it. You'll just be going to work, and you hear
Exactly.
that a lot of times. A lot of people be like, "I just go to work. I just work there or whatever," and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay because most of the time you just want to take care of your family. But when you're doing something that you love and it's your passion, you're gonna put 110% into it. You're gonna put your all into it, and you're not gonna worry about uh, a financial thing, whether you're getting paid. This is just what you do.
It's what you love and what
So
you
as I was reading it, I thought that was very interesting. And then he finished it up with, I ain't gonna lie to you. I've told that story for 30, 40 years. I'm telling you the truth. I don't know. I really don't know. I've asked people to explain that to me, and they talk to me about this hallucinarian thing, hallucinarian shit, so to say. I think that maybe what he describes how he loves his art is how when you ask the other gentleman the question, having that euphoric, that that joy, that passion. When they explain it, he could probably explain about his art, but he don't know to have it. Like he answered the question very honest when he said the number two pencil in the paper. So that's his physical in love with instead of a human being, which is interesting because in his eyes he may not, that love that he got may not have flaws unless he done drew something that he don't like, so to say.
I agreed. But what I found that was interesting is that some of the ways that he talked about how he loves his art is also some of the ways that some of our gentlemen talked about how they know when they're in love with a woman. He said, for example, having no concept of time, the
Mm.
days, anything going on around me, all of that disappears. All of those worries about life, everything disappears when I'm creating. And so it's like it's kind of like some of the gentlemen in the book kind of express that too. But for Lee, the object of his affection is his art.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. And
Beautiful.
my buddy, Charm be on it. Like man, let me, I took these notes, but I always try to refer to somebody that always catch my interest.
Right.
It'd be real interesting. Charm said, he said, in regards to knowing that you're in love, he said, magical. You be on this natural high. It feels magical. It's a beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I can say that shit a million times. It's gorgeous. It's intoxicating. You'll be on cloud number 35. Like you be out of here. You be out in space. Like, yo, I'm lit. I'm lit.
Yeah.
Um, you see it all over your face when you wake up in the morning. Usually your shit will just be beat up. But when you look at your face in the mirror, you be like, cha-ching, cha-ching. It's amazing because I'm quite sure, like we talked about before, some of the gentlemen when you interviewed them, the ones that you were there physically, and you could see that when you asked that question, their physical body language. What did you take from the body language when you were asking these questions, like the ones that you physically were able to interview?
I think there are two different approaches, right? So the first thing is that it's a very challenging question to answer because you have to go back and you have to kind of reflect on your emotion, and then you have to be able to put that emotion into words. And all of our gentlemen did their very best to describe it, and we get a lot from it. But in terms of the body language, I think if it's a positive experience, like in the case of Charm, you get to see that excitement and that glow and that happiness just thinking about it. If it's an experience that may have been challenging, then you get to see, the willingness to want to express what it felt like and how they know, but also that kind of maybe disappointment that they didn't still have it.
Actually, Eric, those aren't subjective descriptions. Those are actually descriptions that these gentlemen felt what love was. Everybody's definition of what love and being in love means to them could be different. So it's not like what they're saying is a blanket statement for everyone else. Their statement is how they feel about themselves. You got
I,
any? You want to answer to that, or that was sufficient?
I think that's great. I think the only other point is that describing how you know when you're in love is going to be extremely subjective for everyone, um, based on what your attachment style is, based on what you're attracted to, based on what happens to you. Um, that glow that Charm was talking about is actually tied to those chemical components that we always talk about. So as you're interacting with someone and you're enjoying that time you're spending with them, that those chemical components also create that glow on your skin and makes you more attractive to to yourself and to your partner.
Hey, Eric, I see your other question. We're gonna get to that. We kind of went over that, I think, in episode 6.
What's the
I'll
question?
show I'll show Julia the question. What question was that, Julia? What is love? That was one of your questions.
Hold on. Have the book here. So we didn't answer specifically the question on what is love. We answered the question on what does love mean to you?
What question was that?
Question number 2.
So that would be episode number 2. That question would be answered in episode number 2.
Or episode number 3, because I think we did
Oh
some.
yeah, it would be episode number 3, and then because we're like 2 episodes ahead. We
So
had the
if
first.
you're interested, you can also get a copy of the book.
How you get a copy of the book, Julia?
Oh, the book is available on Amazon. It's Crown Root 2, King, How Black Men Love. It's the second edition. If you wanted a bundle with a book and a men's t-shirt, you can message me directly on Facebook.
Okay, great. So back to what we were saying. Yeah, I thought what Charm was saying about the glow and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting because you know even a step further, most of them were talking about like I forget one of the gentlemen. He said he referred to like that teenage that old teenage feeling like yo, like back in the day, like the first experience, and it's interesting that um most people refer to that a lot. Most people refer to their first time, like they always talk about that first. And even one of your questions, when was the first time you experienced love? Like it's interesting that a lot of people always refer to that person, that first person, and a lot of times, in a lot of cases, a lot of people aren't with that first person, but they can remember that first person.
They can remember that first person. What I liked, most of the gentlemen, not all of them, but most of them talked about how when one of the ways that they know that they're in love is that they're thinking about that person all of the time. It's generally the first person that they think about in the morning and the last person that they think about at night, and that's usually what we experience with our first love. I mean, I don't know about you, Quentin, but I remember being on the phone sometimes for hours.
You was making emergency breakthroughs back then.
For hours
Yeah.
because you
Now we telling our
just
age when we start talking about stuff like that. Emergency breakthroughs because there was no call waiting in three ways back then on a regular house phone. So you was
right.
making emergency breakthroughs. So when you was 15, you had a teenage phone in your room, and
Yes,
you couldn't be on the phone after 8 o'clock.
but you sneak in the closet and you talk on the phone as long as you can. But yeah, it's like you like some of the gentlemen said, you don't want to be apart from that person. You enjoy falling asleep on the phone. Exactly. Good evening, Helena.
Talking about no, I ain't fall asleep, yo. I want that wasn't me. You heard snoring. That was my brother. You know my brother Big. You know he snoring. You know we got bump beds.
Oh, God. And telling the person, go ahead and go to sleep, get your rest. I'll speak to
Yeah. Well,
you.
matter of fact, you go to sleep. I'll stay on the phone, listen to slow jams. When you wake up in an hour, you just hit me back, yo. But you just hit me back. But I'm gonna stay on the phone with you.
Right. But it's that wanting to just always be around that person because of the good feeling that you have when you're with them.
Nicole, you remember emergency breakthroughs, Nicole? You and Helena? Y'all remember them emergency breakthroughs back in the day? Nah, so yeah, so that's that like you be like crazy. And it's like, you know how they used to say, "Oh, you sprung. She got you. You jacked up." Even in what's our favorite movie, Love Jones.
Love Jones, yes.
When Isaiah Washington looking at him, Isaiah Washington looking at Lorenz Tate like, "Oh, you
Gone.
got it. You got it.
You got
You
it.
got it. Like yeah, you got it."
Good evening, Joelle. Yes, those were the days. And I think, we do that differently now. We connect and, express our emotion a little bit different now. We have different ways to communicate and to
You
stay in
think I'm
communication.
gonna ask you from as I would say, you're an expert in this stuff because you did a field study, as they say, you did some theory, and then
Yes,
you did some practical work.
yes.
Do you think that one of the things now compared to back then is that we're so guarded? Like back then, you wasn't guarded. You ain't care if you looked this stupid. You ain't care if his mother was on the phone with his aunt. You was making a mercy break to you. Was like, Miss Williams, I don't care. I need to talk to him now. Miss Williams, that's just a fictitious name, so don't nobody go looking for the Williams. But anyway, I'm just using fictitious names right now. But you didn't. So back then, you didn't care. You wrote him letters. You gave it to his best friend in school. You didn't mind, as we would say, you didn't mind embarrassing yourself.
No,
Now it's more like it's more guarded. More people be like, I'm staying single. I'll just date. If I do start feeling this person, I'm gonna just take extra baby steps, and because I need to be careful.
it's we learn. It's unfortunate in some regard, but then it's also healthy in another regard. Is that, yeah, you didn't worry about who called first. It's unfortunate in one regard, but it's healthy in another regard. After we have so much experience, or after we gain experience, and through experience, we have disappointments, we have upsets, we have hurts, we have all these challenges. We learn from those experiences. And sometimes what we learn from those experiences is how to protect ourselves
Mm.
from additional challenges and hurts and disappointments. And so, unfortunately, what that brings to bear, I've seen, is that instead of being able to trust ourselves and being able to communicate what we feel and being able to communicate how we feel about someone, we keep those things to ourselves for fear of being rejected, for fear that the other person doesn't feel the same. Maybe we tried to do it before and it wasn't received well. And so, we learn to become a little bit more guarded as we mature. You really have to find, and I think that's what the gentleman talk about. Matt said it very he said it very well. He said he doesn't believe in love at first sight. And he kind of refers to a relationship in respect to an egg. He said most people fall in love with the shell. And he said for him, he has to know what's inside of that egg. He said he has to know that the mentality is equal, and that he's on the same wavelength with the person, and that they share the same kind of energy. He even went down to the chakras. He said, if the chakras are aligned. And he said when that happens, it allows you to feel a little bit more free to express yourself and to communicate how you feel.
Hmm.
What?
No, I'm just amazed that he said that. Like he know. A lot of times a person may not know. A lot of times they didn't go through. I'm not gonna say the normal kids. I won't use that word. They didn't go through what everybody else. A lot of people, you got those people that were guarded in high school or whatever, and they didn't really date them much, and then they have this college or midlife experience, and then they just be as they say, they just they came, as we would say, they came off the porch and they just came guns blazing, like, yo. like they just off the chain.
Come
So
back in the yard.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
it's
that's what,
amazing. But I did like my buddy, Coleman.
yes. Oh, he
Coleman.
went deep.
Coleman, for those in the chat, Coleman was a guest on the show, and Coleman gave some insight about being interviewed for the book and being very transparent about the questions. Coleman was on in episode 9, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, Coleman came on episode 9. For anybody that's in the chat, you go to the YouTube channel, episode 9 is there, and you could get a chance to see who Coleman is, see what he's about, see his mannerisms. Because I believe that when you see a person physically and you have seen their writing and their words, then you could attach the two and then see why his answers fits him because he's a man of a certain age, a little bit more experienced, a little bit more mature, a little bit more seasoned. So I believe that if you want to refer back to episode 9 and see who Coleman is. But I thought Coleman's answer to this question was interesting. He said, you need to decipher this thing.
Right. First and foremost.
Is it love, lust, puppy love, or is this thing serious?
Exactly. Exactly. What kind of love are we talking about here?
I
Or
thought
what
that
kind
was
of
interesting.
emotion are we talking about here?
I thought that was interesting because he when he went further into it,
Mm.
because and I think that that's interesting. I'm not I see where Eric is saying something in the chat,
I have an answer to what he asked earlier.
and Eric had
Compatible and love are two separate things. Absolutely.
and
So,
I wasn't ignoring what he was saying, but
mhm,
it wasn't the right appropriate time to put the question up here.
mhm.
But this right there, what he said suits exactly what Coleman coincides with what Coleman said about having clarity on what it is.
Right. And I have the definitions here to Eric's earlier point.
Okay.
So, love is defined as being deeply committed and connected to someone. Lust is a very strong sexual desire, and infatuation is an intense but short lived, unreasonable passion.
Wow. What's infatuation again?
Infatuation is an intense but short lived, unreasonable passion.
Yeah, I think a bunch of us know about that intensity stuff.
And the short lived stuff,
Yeah, sure. You'll be like, oh man, I'm disappointed.
right?
Like I don't. And y'all have to excuse in the chat is that me and Julia have this connection where we can laugh and talk and have this chemistry when we go over the book. So we're not laughing at any of the answers.
No,
We're just laughing at when you reflect when you talk to someone and you can reflect on certain situations that you put yourself in the past and laugh about it because you know that you've grown from those situations
yes,
instead of being bitter about it and blaming the next person.
yes.
Then you can sit back and say, "Oh man, I'm disappointed. I'm upset. Like the bottom fell out.
Oh, I'm
The,
glad to have
the,
had the
you
experience
know,
because I learned.
the bottom completely dropped out of the plan. You're like, I don't work myself up for this. Like, what happened?
Shut the front door.
Yeah, and the back, and then
But
one of your friends. I'm gonna just imitate you. I'm gonna just imitate one of your friends, Julia.
uh-huh.
They'd be like, "Girl, what happened?" She'd be like, "I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about it. You don't want me to talk. Don't even want to talk about it." You'd be like, "Yo, what you mean? What happened? What happened? What did you do?"
He
I
just
told
wasn't
you.
right.
I
He just
told
wasn't
you. I
right.
don't want to talk about it, Joe. Look, and then 5 minutes later, well, let me tell you anyway.
Yeah,
You really be wanting to go off. See, Nicole know what I'm talking about. You really be wanting to just go off like but you be so upset with yourself for making decisions because, like Eric had said, and then you explained it from the definition, and Coleman said, because you didn't define it
Right.
or try to figure it out,
Right.
it could have been a lust thing,
Could have been lust.
could have been love,
Could
and
have
it could
been
have been
infatuation.
infatuation. So now, and this is interesting because I remember a friend of mine. He was telling me, he said, Q, when I meet people, I don't have no expectation. And I told him I didn't agree with that. I said, everybody has an expectation of somebody, whether they're low expectations or very high. You have to have an expectation. He said, no, I don't have expectations of nobody. If I meet somebody and we just stay friends, it's cool with me. If I
Mhm.
meet somebody and it goes a step further, it's cool with me. So, make a long story short, he's still
But
single now.
that's
And he's been single and he's happy. He's very happy where he's at. Don't get me wrong. I don't want you to think that he's because he's single, he's not happy. He's very happy, but he just doesn't meet people with expectations.
but that's the way that you develop healthy attachments when you don't have, or healthier attachments when you don't have those expectations. Because you add, let's say you add the equation, the equation for short-lived interaction. You add lust plus an expectation that this is going somewhere, plus the other person not feeling the way about you that you feel about them, or you not feeling about them the way that they feel about you, plus poor communication. You have a disaster on your hands.
It's funny that we even went down this rabbit hole, right? I see Helena's statement, excited for a while, and then you have to ask yourself, what the hell was I so excited about? And that's so true, right?
Yes.
But we went down this rabbit hole with this part of the conversation, and I'm glad we did. So the other day I was sitting back and I was at work and I was thinking about today's show. You know, um, always thinking about what we gonna talk about, how we gonna address it, how the show gonna go. So I
Mhm.
was sitting back thinking about um, Waiting to Exhale.
Yes.
The book turned into a movie by Terry McMillan.
Yes.
And I always bug out off of certain clips in the movie.
Yeah.
I got my Michael T. Williamson clip. I always think that's just the funniest thing. He
Yes.
just got so angry he called a B. But one of the parts in Waiting to Exhale that I thought was very very interesting. I think that a lot of times we don't understand it, but I thought was very very interesting was the Wesley Snipes role in the movie,
Yes.
and when he wrote her the letter.
Yes.
I just thought that was just interesting because he felt as though without the intimacy, he realized that he fell in love with her. And I thought that was like, and I was the other, like I told you the other day, I'm sitting back thinking about the show. Like, all right, me and Julie got to do this show on Thursday. How we gonna address it? And I was like, yo, just think about that. Like, interesting thing, That's just an interesting thing.
And
Like, and a lot of, and a lot, and if you tell that to a lot of people, they'll be like, huh? What do you mean? What do you mean you was never intimate with this person? And you fell in love or you realized that you were in love with that individual.
and he said in that scene when she's reading the letter, he expresses to her that she is the only other woman besides his wife that he has fallen in love with. And so when we look at that scene, what was it that he loved? It was partly, if you break the scene down, it was partly the ability to have that conversation with her at the bar.
Yeah,
She was initially standoffish, but then she opened up herself to him. The other thing was she was beautiful to look at, just gorgeous, right?
yeah,
But a lot had that conversation, and then even in her hurt, disappointed, and heartbroken state, she was able to communicate to him what had happened to her,
hmm
And the fact that he was in a similar situation that her ex-husband was, and that he felt that compassion for her and they were able to relate, that's intimacy.
Yeah, that's true intimacy.
That's true intimacy, that I can share my heart with you.
Yeah, I thought that. I don't know what made me think about that movie. I just, like I told you, I just think that a lot of times, because the movie has so many different angles from a relationship standpoint and relationships, and how dealing with your books, how we settle for certain situations, how we don't settle for certain situations, how some people are supportive. And I think that those four women and all their interactions, it speaks volumes about how we as a community deal with our relationships and the complexity of those relationships. And I thought about that particular scene and was like, yo, he really wrote her that letter, yo.
I mean, and in her reading of it, of course, it's, it's a movie and it's based on Terry McMillan's writing, but in her reading of it, he was pouring out his heart, which I think, referring it back to this book, I really personally feel that of all of the questions that the gentleman answer in the book, that this answer is really for women. Like, this question is really for women. This question and question 13, but question number 9, how do you know when you're in love? What does it feel like to you? I think it's important for women to be able to understand what these men are saying, because men and women have different ideas, or sometimes we think we have different ideas about love, and the answers that they give allows us to understand how some men feel when they are in love. And it's important to understand that as a woman. um Hermes didn't even really answer the question. He talked about what love is not.
Yeah, yeah. He avoided that piece.
Yes.
So Nicole said, I have thought back on times where I thought I was in love until going into another relationship, and that one ending, that the one prior wasn't really love. And that happens in a lot of cases as well, because it has those three. Let's just say those three are categories: love, lust, and infatuation.
Infatuation. But then there are also different aspects of love, or different ways that you can love someone. And one of the gentlemen in the book said that we should never compare love, if we're able to not compare it, because it will be different. And that's one of the things I try to caution my friends about. Like, sometimes they say they're in love with somebody, and it's like, you really like him a lot, but he might be better suited as a business partner.
Mm,
Or you really like him a lot, but he might just provide you with that spiritual connection that you're looking for. Like, he might be a good prayer partner. That doesn't mean that that's your man, or that
and,
that's your
and,
love.
and, and that happens in a lot of cases where a person could just, uh, it could be just a friendship, and you love that person as a friend, and then you go too far, and you'd be like, I don't love you as no relationship. I don't love you as a partner. I don't love you as a companion. I don't want to be your life partner. We could be lifetime friends, but now one of us have almost crossed the line, and it done went too far. So I really don't love you like that. So I'm asking. I see Eric's question. He said that's why we must learn the true definition of love. I think everybody has a different definition of what they believe love is. I mean, we could say a definition that would maybe in Webster's or
Right.
in the dictionary, but asking these gentlemen that question, that's what they're giving us, and we can only go by what they're giving us and from our own experiences.
I'd like to read what Coleman said, because I thought it was so magnificent. Can I go ahead and read that, Quincy?
Absolutely.
Okay. It goes, someone gave me a review on the book and they said it's an OG book, because an OG
So
book,
what book?
an OG book of rules. Something that they wish their father or uncle had said to them. I thought that was cool. Okay, so this is what Coleman says. He said in response to this question, he says several people on page 139, I'm sorry, several people much wiser than me have discussed this when conversations come up. When you're retired and you're on a porch or a lake overlooking the sunset, who is it that you want beside you? Who is there with you? And no matter how old or young you are, you're 100 and something years old and you're sitting on the porch. And if you don't think about the person that you're with beside you, then you have a problem. That tends to longevity. Tomorrow, are we going to be together? So that's how I know when I'm in love, when I can see myself 50 years from now with the person I'm with. Then he also went on to say, if someone asks you 50 years from now who you want on the porch with you, and if you find yourself trying to put that person in there, as soon as you ask that question, that 50-year scene should come up in your mind.
Mm.
And if that person is not automatically in there, your soul and your spirit is going to know. It's going to tell you. But if you have to build the scene first and then try to put that person in there, chances are you're not in love yet. What you think about that, Quentin? Quentin Ford.
I think based off of Coleman's experience and expertise in the issue, he's explaining how, in retrospect, how it should be handled. Mm-hmm. He's given, as you said, he's given us the G code. How you should go about it. If you can't picture yourself on that rocking chair on that front porch drinking your lemonade with that individual, forget all the minutia, so to say. Forget all the trips, because we all complain the trips and vacations and all the great lovemaking and spending time together. But he's talking about being the simplistic things and being able to be with that person in stillness. Hearing that person's heartbeat, hearing that person breathe.
Being able to look at how their skin has aged and still being able to see beauty in that. Mm. Or admiring the gray in their hair. Or being able to reflect on the life you created together. And being proud of that.
Yeah.
That's love.
Yeah. 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 So we're gonna reset the show and then we're gonna come back. But y'all in the chat, you know what we do all the time as a way of promoting the book. And a way of resetting the show. Here we go.
Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Crown Rules with our host Quentin Ford and myself, Julia Dozier. I am the author of 2 books focused on the health and well-being of relationships within the Black community. My first published book, Crown Rules, One Woman's Journey to the Throne, is an explorative journey into the heart, mind, and soul of a woman. It is designed for the rebuilding of a woman's self-identity, her purpose, and her vision for her future. The book contains journaling exercises for her to document her transformation on her journey to the throne. The second edition will be available in 2021. My current book release, Crown Rules 2, How Black Men Love, is purposed to provide healing and restoration to the relationships we conduct within our race by establishing first and foremost that Black men do love. The book contains interviews held with 10 Black men at different ages and stages of their lives. They share the meaning, perspective, and their experience of love in their own words. Each week, Quentin and I look forward to discussing the book and one of the 13 questions asked of each man. And we invite you, our audience, to share your questions, your thoughts, your experience, and your wisdom as we journey through Black love. So sit back, relax, and let's talk Crown Rules. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Yeah, I swear, I love your promo. I love your promo to the opening to our show, as well as the book. I think, like I told you, I got both editions,
Yes.
and
Thank you, Quentin.
I'm cautiously waiting for number three. I'm cautiously
I'm
waiting for
working
number
on
three.
it. I'm working on it.
So, moving right along,
Yes.
we're gonna put a cherry on this puppy, as I would say. And next week's show,
Yes.
episode 12, next
Yes.
week is "What to You is Better Than Love." Mm,
Mm, mm, mm.
interesting question. That's going to be next week's question. Julia, do you have any final thoughts, statements, or comments that you like for episode 11?
Yes, I do. I think that although when we began the show, we were talking about the emotions that the men express, let them know when they're in love, but then they also talk about very important things in terms of knowing someone has their back and being able to trust someone with their life. And so, those are some of the indicators as well. If you don't have a copy of the book, I'd appreciate it if you purchased it, not just for me, but also for yourself or for any young men or young women that are starting to date or starting to get into relationships. The goal is to have healthy relationships within our community. So thank you, everybody. Always great to be here with you, Quentin.
The only thing that I have to say, and I always tell you that um, I believe that I've read a nice amount of books in my life, and I'm reading like three or four right now. I believe that this book is a very good book. I believe that this book is a guide, and it'll give. I believe this book is for men and women to read separately and maybe then collectively.
Yes.
I believe that a lot of women could understand their mate better if they was to read the book.
Yes.
Um, I believe that it opens up the door to these 10 gentlemen in this book. It opens up the door to a level of transparency that a lot of people don't see
Yes.
or show to the general public. And this is why I always tell you, and like I told Coleman a couple weeks ago, I really, really respect that his transparency, because a lot of people won't share their feelings not only to another individual and for a book, but to the world.
Yes. Yes.
So I hope that everybody in the chat, sometimes what we should do is being able to pull the layers back on ourselves and look at ourselves and realize some of the mistakes along the way that we've made to get to where we're at as individuals before we may or may not get into that next situationship, so to say. Because everybody that you deal with, you're in a relationship with, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a work relationship, you're in that relationship with them
Yes.
somehow, so on. So it can give you a better insight, or as we would say, it's different levels to this stuff.
Yes.
So I appreciate you guys in the chat this week joining the show. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Let
Yes.
everybody know what's going on, because everybody could get a benefit from the book. With that, have a blessed week.
Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Crown Rules with our host Quentin Ford and myself, Julia Dozier. I am the author of 2 books focused on the health and well-being of relationships within the Black community. My first published book, Crown Rules, One Woman's Journey to the Throne, is an explorative journey into the heart, mind, and soul of a woman. It is designed for the rebuilding of a woman's self-identity, her purpose, and her vision for her future. The book contains journaling exercises for her to document her transformation on her journey to the throne. The second edition will be available in 2021. My current book release, Crown Rules 2, How Black Men Love, is purposed to provide healing and restoration to the relationships we conduct within our race by establishing first and foremost that Black men do love. The book contains interviews held with 10 Black men at different ages and stages of their lives. They share the meaning, perspective, and their experience of love in their own words. Each week, Quentin and I look forward to discussing the book and one of the 13 questions asked of each man. And we invite you, our audience, to share your questions, your thoughts, your experience, and your wisdom as we journey through Black love. So sit back, relax, and let's talk Crown Rules. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.